A Virginia judge has blocked a Trump administration from deporting a Georgetown University researcher. Now, earlier this week, immigration authorities detained Badar Khan Suri. He's an Indian national and postdoctoral associate at Georgetown. Now, Suri has been studying and teaching on a student visa. The university says he obtained that visa in order to continue his research on peace building in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, remember, this all follows the ICE detainment of a Columbia University graduate and green card holder, Mahmoud Khalil, earlier this month. Now, Khalil was involved in pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia in 2024. For more, let's bring in CBS News Homeland Security correspondent Nicole Sganga. Nicole, thanks for being with us. What can you tell us about Suri's arrests and the government's accusations against him?
Yeah, absolutely, Kelly. And there is a very hefty lawsuit filed on behalf of Suri, habeas corpus, an unlawful detention lawsuit, which reveals some of the moments leading up to Suri's arrest, namely that on Monday, DHS agents, presumably agents from ICE or HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, surrounded Suri outside of his home in Roslyn, Virginia. They were masked. He had no prior notice given. He was returning from iftar. He had just broken his fast from Ramadan. And although he was initially admitted to the United States on a J-1 visa, that's a visa typically given to professionals and scholars who are working for a U.S. employer, in this case, of course, Georgetown University, he was told by law enforcement that that visa had been revoked. Now, the Department of Homeland Security has put out a statement. They shared it with CBS News, and they claim that Suri had been actively spreading Hamas propaganda and promoting anti-Semitism on social media. They also claim that he had a close contact with a known suspected terrorist, a senior advisor to Hamas, but they have failed to reveal how they ascertained that information or to name that specific contact, Kelly.
So, as we mentioned, a federal judge in Virginia blocked his deportation Thursday. His attorneys are also trying to move him from Louisiana, where he's being held, back to Virginia. So walk us through what comes next here.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to clarify, I mean, the federal judge did not ultimately rule yet on the Trump administration's effort to deport Suri, but they have issued a temporary restraining order that prevents the federal government from deporting or transferring him internationally for the time being as his case sort of plays out here. That is just a temporary stay of removal. Suri, of course, was told that his visa has been revoked, and he was eventually taken from Virginia to an ICE facility in central Louisiana. He now awaits an immigration court date. And of course, his lawyers actively working to transfer him closer to home so he can be closer to family and to legal representation.
Yeah, I mean, I find this whole case fascinating because there is very little legal precedent. I mean, there is a Supreme Court case, if you go back to the 1945, that sort of deals with all of this, but very little since then. But before I let you go, what message do you think the Trump administration is trying to send by detaining academic individuals like Suri?
Well, of course, Homeland Security officials have publicly stated this is part of the Trump administration's wider immigration enforcement efforts. But, you know, this arrest is one of many scholars and student activists arrests on college campuses throughout the United States. A handful who have opposed U.S. foreign policy, specifically as it pertains to Israel, have already been arrested. There is outrage from, community members, advocates who say this is clearly in violation of the First Amendment and will have chilling effects on free speech, you mentioned. But last week, the Department of Homeland Security arrested Mahmoud Khalid, who was a Palestinian protest leader on Columbia's campus and a green card holder. He's also now being detained by ICE in a Louisiana facility just 44 miles away from where Suri is being detained. And in fact, in this lawsuit, in this complaint filed by Suri's representation, they cite that the government, quote, planned to whisk him 1,600 miles away in the same manner as the government did in the case of Khalil, isolating him from his wife, children, community, legal representation. They call it plainly intended as retaliation and punishment for Mr. Suri's protected speech that intends to chill his speech now and in the future. And certainly that will have rippling impacts across the community. And we expect that the Department of Homeland Security will, not stop here, that there will be other arrests like this one, Kelly.
Nicole Sganga, thank you for breaking down all of these developments for us today.
Thank you.